Howdy! Right now, some images are shown on the screen. Cool images, right? Some might even say they look identical or even the same. But that statement is far from true. See, this is street art and this is graffiti. So that's the topic of today's video, that street art is definitely not graffiti. Now this is the most obvious difference between the two, because anyone can see that if some person started grabbing their spray can and already is about to make an outline of some random word, of course someone is going to say, oh, he's making graffiti. Come on, just look at that little gremlin. On the other hand, if you see some street art, it also has its own distinct style. Now, unlike graffiti, it clearly looks more professional and not from a gang member. Look at him, he's definitely making some fine art. Through some intergalactic sources, there's some evidence to prove this point. In the article by Quartz called The Struggle Between Graffiti and Street Art, it has some points to prove the argument. It states bluntly, graffiti is word-based, whereas street art is image-based. This clearly states a difference, but to go further down the same article, it also states graffiti as art is elaborate, and figurative graffiti is combined with images. Now the last part says graffiti combined with images, directing towards the fact that graffiti is just words. Nothing about graffiti including art. Now, when was the last time someone saw some poser graffitiing on a wall and someone walks by and says, wow, that's epic? No, they're just going to call and arrest the man. Now, if it was a street artist making some kind of mural, then that person will get some praise. Some evidence to prove this point is shown in the article by Nucella called, Is Urban Graffiti a Force for Good or Evil? And in the article, it shows two good pieces of good evidence to show a silver lining. Like, quote, in 2008, the Tate Modern Museum in London, England, invited 6 artists to decorate its building with enormous eye-catching murals, end quote. It also shows the opposite side of it. It also states, in quote, meanwhile, not far away, 8 members of London's well-known OPM crew were tried in court for 1.3 million graffiti-related damages, end quote. Those two statements alone should show how biased it is when it comes to street art or graffiti. This reason is small, but it's definitely notable. Now, there's bound to be someone who says, what are you talking about? Gang members always mark places with their gang symbols or to mark territory. Isn't that signing their name and crew in some way? Well, yes, they absolutely do that. It's not necessarily the same. Now, when it comes to street artists, they do something a little different. Instead, they put their full name, or rather put an Instagram username, but it really depends on the actual person. On the contrary, popular graffiti artists do this thing called tagging, where they put their crew or gang mark. Yeah, totally different things. But to go further down the rabbit hole, an article posted on Westward says, quote, a great sign that you're looking at street art rather than looking at graffiti is the signature on the bottom right corner of the piece, end quote. The article shows another difference by saying, quote, most graffiti artists crew up and tagging up. The 3 largest are TKO, RTO, and SWS, end quote. These facts are just add up to the overall point. Now that the facts have been shown...
Now hold on 1 second. Isn't it a fact that street art derived from graffiti? It has to be the same. It's been known that graffiti is as old as human civilization itself. So how come there's a difference? Come on, both sides of the board over there look very similar, but they're both classified as different things? That doesn't seem right.
Graffiti was the original art form, and yes, street art got inspiration from graffiti, but just because that's true doesn't mean it's an automatic fast pass to being graffiti itself. Like, for example, while graffiti is just limited to just spray paint, street art has many more options. Back to the previous article, it states, although street artists use aerosol, they also employ everything from acrylic and oil paint to projectors, wood, or metal, and multi-modal materials, end quote. So saying because they're related means they're the same isn't too much of a valid argument now, is it? The video's about to end. That's the cue to leave. But before that happens, something has to be learned. That very thing is that street art is not graffiti, and all the facts are here to prove it. Like how street art is more accepted, or how graffiti is more word-based. And if there was a thing to take out of this video, it would have to be there's a clear difference between street art and graffiti, and we'll leave it at that. Farewell.